Gonna try it out. What's up, YouTube? Get y'all clipped in there. Today is gonna be a little different. I'm shooting a little earlier because we are headed out of town, so I'm leaving a little bit earlier. On the Prepper news update, we got maps printed out now, and in fact, we're gonna be adding to our map stash with a rest stop along the way. I don't know how you want to say it, but we're headed to the farm. Also got a 2-for-1 pack of lighters. So wifey got a pack, I got a pack. I just have yet to distribute it to my bug out bag and my tool bag, and that's okay. We're gonna get to it here shortly. Well, as many of you know right now, with the updates of what's going on, I'm not really going to hit too much on the news of what other channels talk about. I will summarize, and you guys can look into that and take that how you will, but we know about some of the things going on, and I just want to reiterate and briefly touch on a point that I hit in one of my more recent videos, that there are 3 ways to motivate a human. Maybe let's start off with a little joke. I was looking for a book about Pavlov's dog and Schrodinger's cat. So I went to the library. The librarian said that it rang a bell, but she didn't know if they had it or not. Anyway, on that note, I think that some of you more philosophical folks can kind of see what that discussion might lead into as far as a Pavlovian response and what motivates people. First is food. And how do you control the food narrative to motivate people to do what you want? Well, if you get the P shot or the J&J or anything in that manner, then how do you motivate? Well, food is one way, and with the supply shortages, that is one manner of controlling the supply of food. And my kudos goes out to all the truckers and all the shippers and all the people working in that industry right now who are fighting this, who are taking a stand. It may not look like it, but we're with you. It doesn't look like it because we're working. The people who are on your side don't have time to go out and protest. We're working. We're doing the things. We have jobs. We have lives. We are the silent majority. Spiritually, we're with you. So don't stop fighting now. Another big way that ties into that of controlling people is money. Threaten someone with their job. If they don't get the P shot or the J shot, then you don't get your money to buy your food, which is already in short supply. So if you're constricting the supply in one area, and then you're telling people over here that if they don't do this, then they won't even have money to get the limited resources here, even though where I'm at, a major artery of interstates coming together and a major hub of transportation. It's a big industry near where I'm at. We're not really seeing the supply shortages that I feel like are being talked about on the news. I don't really know what it's like for everyone else, but everything that we've needed, diapers, baby formula, milk, the things that we get to live our life, we have. Costco was just a normal trip. But I digress. What I am going to touch on is very much the money and the jobs and the economy as a means to an end, which is control. Why is it that all the governments of the world seem to have a gun to their head, and it is the mission to get this into the arm of every citizen? So all of that leads back to the third way to control people, which is fear. Fear that they will get sick. Fear that they will get a loved one sick. Fear that they will suffer and die. It is made to seem so painful, and I'm sure it is. I have pneumonia. I remember how painful it was when I had it. I remember waking up in the middle of the night one night gasping for air, and the first thought going through my head was, I'm dying, I can't breathe, I'm dying. And when I calmed down just a little bit and finally got some air through the blockage in my throat from the pneumonia, it got better. But that was one hell of a week and a half of pain. So I am not trying to downplay anyone suffering from what is going on or the deaths that have happened because of this. I am saying, though, that how come things are so different from the flu or another big one? I mean, the science that we have now on the CDC's website basically says 99.7% survival rate for people, I think it's 70 and under, but let's say 60 and under. So if that's the survival rate, and like people under 30, it's like 99.999999% that you're gonna be fine. So why are all these pro athletes dropping to the ground with lung problems, heart problems? You know, world-class football athletes in Europe, and American football athletes, and hockey players, and basketball players. What is going on? Why is there a sudden need to silence anybody who questions the medical establishment, and why is the medical establishment where it's at now? I mean, really, we have seen a drastic change. And all of this ties into ushering in. A lot of people have questions. What is this? What is this? Is this the mark of the beast? No. This isn't the mark of the beast. This isn't leading to some Orwellian 1984 future. We're already there in a lot of ways. It's a boring dystopia. This isn't leading to Aldous Huxley's Brave New World. You know, the thing is there was a lot of sci-fi authors, and there's a lot of science fiction by a lot of different sci-fi authors. Statistically, some of those authors are going to write things and pen stories that do come true in a weird way. That doesn't mean that that is what's going to happen. I mean, do you really think that as a society we will get to a point where we... Whoa, this guy's coming in my lane. Have you guys noticed that? With driving lately, people just... That guy wasn't even on his phone. He just has been... Like, people just swerve into other people's lanes. It's like people are getting so aggressive these days. And I urge you to to make a conscious effort to breathe and forgive and be understanding, because society at large is at a high tension point right now, and it's something is going to pop off, and you should not be the one to either do it or be on the receiving end of it. So keep calm, like the white girl house decoration. Carry on. Okay, but back to the Aldous Huxley, Orwellian, Minority Report style future. Well, it is eerily creepy that some of this stuff is prophetic in a way, but are we really going to get to a point as a society where we're cloning people and putting them into a caste system on purpose? A, B, C, and D, alphas, betas, deltas, and epsilons, and I mean, I'm not pretending to be an expert or anything on what goes on with the caste system in India, and it seems pretty culturally embedded, but there's no way that we could get to a point where we raise and clone babies and have them be shocked when they try to touch a plant or a book. I mean, it's a literary, like, it's a utility in literary works and in film. I mean, you have to be, it's shock value, no pun intended. It is like, it's supposed to be so graphic. That's why everyone's always pushing the envelope in Hollywood with these movies, and who can be the bloodiest, and who can have the most nudity, and who can have the most drama. It's like, who can be the funniest in a rom-com. You always have to push the envelope. And so, yeah, that like grabs your attention. It happens early on in the novel, so that it brings you in, and you're like, holy crap, like, is this a potential outcome? And it does help build the world out. I don't think that we're ever going to get to that point. But, if we do, just remember, the roots of the tree of freedom is watered with the blood of tyrants. Tyrants win when they have useful idiots on their side. Tyrants win when they don't have to expend a large amount of resources to control the masses. It's very easy to sit on your high horse and say what's going on and pay people to influence that narrative and get people to be scared and do it for the greater good, and tell them, if they don't, their elderly parents and grandparents are at risk of dying. And like, I get that in one of the world wars, when they had to put out all the lights at night to prevent the bombing, I understand that, but that's still not the same metaphor. This crazy theory of mine is that this was an act of war by China with a bioweapon, and the administration that was in office when it happened did a really good job of managing expectations and living that down, and making it so that a large Asian nation couldn't get their way. because of what the administration was doing for our economy and how their economy was going to be hurt. I mean, if any of you guys follow crypto or this whole GameStop, AMC, Evergrande, I mean, you can't be so insular. You can't be America number one, America number one. I mean, you buy an America's number one t-shirt, it's made in China. Let's be real. Democracy is democracy, and globalism and globalization is a thing. If you're not open to understanding global economics, then we can't really talk. I love America made, and I will, do what I can, but let's be real. If you buy a t-shirt that's 100% made in America, you're going to pay $80 for that t-shirt. A button down, forget about it. And I get buying American-made cars, yeah, but those parts might be stamped here in the U.S., but those microchips are made somewhere else, and those raw materials for that metal, that was mined in another part of the world as well. I mean, it all comes together in one way or another, and because of our global trade and economy is the reason that we have this right now. It's the reason that I'm moving at 63 miles an hour on a stretch of roadway that connects me to my workplace that would never have been possible 100 years ago, just a century. So there is a lot to be thankful for because of capitalism and global trade. And so you would be naive to think that large Asian nation doesn't have benefits and drawbacks of partnering with us. And I always like to think of the game as a game of 3D chess, like they played in that Star Trek episode. Excuse me. I did a video actually years ago, and it's been taken down. And in fact, Patriot Nurse, I think I just watched her channel because another person that I listened to brought her up about how she's being censored, and I had a similar thing happen about how I talked about how the 3D game of chess is played, and I'm gonna have to be vague because that's all we can do. So let's say I'm playing Civilization, a game that let's say I'm playing Risk, a game, or Stratego, two games that I've never played, and the rules of this game, which I don't know, are basically kind of just very similar to real life. And you have Nation A, Nation B, and Nation C, and Nation R. How about Nation A, Nation R, and Nation C, and then a bunch of other players. And then over the course of the game, it's those main three nations that I just talked about. Over the course of the game, they've kind of risen to be the big guys. Well, in order to keep the economy churning along, especially the military-industrial complex, you have to create conflict. You have to manufacture conflict. And at the base level, the checkers level, the pawn level, the everyday life, this is the game that you're forced to play whether you like it or not. The illusion of choice A versus B. B versus R is another way of saying A. 1 versus 2, whatever. Black versus white on the chessboard, red versus black. The illusion of choice. And that's what people talk about. That's what you talk about, or is the drama on the news media, on the big stations controlled by large, faceless international banking corporations, or investment companies, hedge funds. It's not global elites. There is no Illuminati. That's silly. There's just people who have a lot of money in organizations with other people that have a lot of money that have created a beast that needs to be fed with money. So they do what they can to get more of it so that they can keep paying other people so that they can keep affording their lifestyle. It's really not that hard. There is no global cabal. There is no secret meeting. That stuff's fun, but it's not what's really going on. So you got your base level chess game, red versus black, checkers. Then you got the second level. This is the more nuanced level. This is the level that a lot of people know about, but they don't really have time to delve into. This is the level that we're discussing, that we see. We know that in order for the world to go on, the U.S. has to maintain good relations. Nation A, has to maintain good relations with Nation R and Nation C. And, since we're playing this game of Risk-Tego, we know that we got to keep our economies going. And so we're going to tell the people playing checkers, hey, make it look like we're going to war with Nation C. And then, I'm sorry, that's the third level. But this level is oh, wait, what's really going on? And they know that. So the third level, what I just alluded to and got confused with, is the smoky, cigars in hand, vodka in hand, whiskey in hand, oaky table, darkly lit, back room, handshake deals, minimal entrance of, hey, we're gonna make this and this happen. We're gonna put troops here, or we're gonna threaten this, or we're gonna impose this sanction for X amount of time. And then, then we're gonna do this for the media, for the mid-level. But the long and the short of it is, big dogs run with the big dogs, and all the little dogs follow. And so Nation R and Nation A and Nation C are really just in it for themselves, but they're in it together because they're so intertwined right now because of globalization. And you can't really untangle that mess because it would cripple the economies of the world. It would cripple trade. Nobody would know what to do. You wouldn't get new cell phones. You wouldn't, there's just so much that we wouldn't get. You wouldn't get the raw materials from Nation R and all the mining and everything that comes out of there. It would just crumble. And so they know that. And so that's why they sit there and say, hey, we're going to make it look like we're going to have a cyber war. And so that way in your country, you can really push cybersecurity education and get a bunch of people to have student loan debt for cybersecurity degrees. And then, we'll have little proxy things, and like we'll make it this or that. And then, we'll keep the military industrial complex going. That way that, your Halliburtons and your Boeings, and, we can still keep pumping the big money into the big contracts, and, just in case something happens. I mean, listen, as much as I want world peace, I also want the world to have the kind of nuke capability, or the weapons capability for an extraplanetary threat, don't you? That's when we start waxing philosophical, and I don't really want to go into aliens and the CIA and, if they exist, and alternate universes or extra dimensional. I mean, that stuff is kind of fun to talk about and think about, and it's very possible. There's other videos that you can look into that explain, I think, like up to the 11th dimension, and it's like, okay, if you want to go that way, sure. And that is another rabbit hole, but the broad stroke of that would be the AI. The AI algorithms that we've created to monitor our social media, to monitor our internet. I mean, right now, none of that's really regulated, so the governments are doing everything they can to get the technocrats and get everything they can do and absorb all of the money and the power that they can before it does actually truly become regulated. And so with the AI systems that are in place, it's going to be really a fight for freedom of speech in a lot of ways that were never foreseen by our forefathers, because they probably didn't know that something like this ability to communicate even existed, or had the potential to exist, I should say. So where do we go? Right? If we're not able to have freedom of thought, freedom of speech, freedom of bodily autonomy, I mean, what happens if there is some form of AI and it does end up taking over some kind of robotic machine that can make machines, and it ends up uploading itself? And then, like, Mass Effect reference, but we have like a Geth army, and it's like we made it, but like it made its body, like it made itself. Like, what if it manufactures? What if that's already happening? Like, what if that's like why they want to, like, what if that's like why nanotechnology, there's such a big push, and start injecting yourself with a microchip and neural net. How much autonomy and freedom are you going to retain once you put neural net on? Or are you just going to shut off and be uploaded with something else? I mean, the human body is the ultimate machine. Very finely tuned fingers. Everything in this world is built to operate with this machine, this meat sack body, this meat vehicle that our consciousness resides in. So if that's what the AI is doing, maybe it's looking to swap itself. Maybe it's looking to transfer itself. And maybe it doesn't know the implication of destroying an entire race. And so it does want to preserve our consciousnesses. Playing God, in a sense. And so That's why there's the Metaverse becoming a thing. That's why crypto is becoming regulated. You know, crypto used to be very inverse from the market. It used to be, there's a big finance term for it. It's a very robust finance term for being, antithetical to the market. But cryptos always used to go opposite in the direction of the market. But now, the trend is that cryptos are going with the market. And there was big leaks years and years ago about big financiers like JP Morgan and other big bank companies that were actively telling their clients, they were actively putting money into the anti-crypto campaign of like, oh, it'll never take off, oh, blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, they were buying up as much of it as they could, talking to their big clients, convincing them to buy up as much of it as they could, with the plans for years later now to put it in their major investment portfolios. That's why we see companies like MassMutual putting it in their general fund for their life insurance customers, because it is regulated. It will be regulated. It will be regulated. And it will be a currency in the metaverse. And we're gonna just let it happen because a robot poking nodes in our brain for stimulation is so much more convenient of a way to live life than what life actually is, the pain and the suffering. Why farm the earth to extinction when you can just synthesize some kind of paste, stick it down the tube of a human in a box, inject it with all kinds of stuff to keep the human happy, and you don't have to worry about any human overeating or undereating or being malnourished. It's kind of scary. Or you put on that neural net, and then all of a sudden, slowly but surely, our consciousnesses go into the metaverse and these AIs take over our bodies. Who knows? Who knows, man? But now that cryptos are in line and have a beta that tracks the market, that should be a major indicator. And there's only something like 3% of people who really are invested in crypto. I mean, I have investing in personal finance pages on social media that I follow, other groups that I'm in, and people every day, I see at least one post a day, probably on average, of people asking, what crypto should I buy? What crypto should I invest in? Hey, I'm new to crypto. I'm just now looking into it. What should I do to get started? It's almost 2022, and people are still trying to figure out how to get into crypto. Crypto's not a bubble. It's not going anywhere. It's here to stay. It's been put in investment funds. It has ETFs that track it. Okay, when the money backs it, it's here to stay. The big money is behind it. So buy all the coins that you can for all the silly cryptos, because if you're kicking yourself in 7 years when all the kiddos are using SHIB to buy loot packs in some metaverse world, and one SHIB coin is going for a penny, because hey, why not? It's fun. It's fun. It's just fun. And that's the base, like that is what it comes down to in a lot of ways. It doesn't have to make sense. What's more fun when you're playing a video game? Having something that's realistic and like, oh my gosh, like I only have 5 gold and I've been playing for 30 levels, and I've got a bunch of silver. I've got 500 silver and like 3 gold and a lot of copper, and it was like very realistic to medieval times. Or do you want to open up your inventory and be like, oh, look at this, I got 2.3 million gold coins, and it's a broken game economy because it's a game. It's more fun to see the large numbers, and so that is why coins like SHIB are gonna take off. Because like, hey, I'm gonna dogs are cute, and I'm gonna trade you 2,000 gold dog coins in game money, because look at the cute little image for that fake crop that I can plant on my fake garden, farm, whatever, my Metaverse property. Or for like that piece of game clothing that looks cool on my avatar, and I'll pay 10,000 SHIB for it, and then meanwhile you can go and buy 10,000 SHIB for, I don't know, $10, say $1, maybe $1. If that's what happens, then yeah, Bitcoin's going to be worth so much more than it is now. Ethereum and Cardano are going to be worth so much more now, because you will have more serious universes. Look at EVE Online. I've never played it. I know it's been around for a very, very, very long time. I stumbled upon someone else's YouTube channel that does talk about the economy of EVE Online. This MMORPG that's been around for oh my gosh how many years, and it has its own internal economy, its own everything. People are very serious about this. The moment that people who play that game can put on a virtual reality headset and be in that universe, they will. It probably, maybe they already can. I don't know. I don't keep up with that game. But that's what's going to happen. If the SH doesn't TF, if the S doesn't HTF, let's just do all of them, then that's what's going to happen. That's why you got to hedge your bets, baby. That's why you got to plan for the best and prep for the worst. And I get it. And you should too. And if that bothers you, well, the roots of the tree of liberty are bathed in the blood of tyrants. The roots of the tree of liberty is watered with the blood of tyrants. And that's really all that needs to be said about that. Because either, I don't know, there probably will be some new move to new economic system, and I think that's ultimately what all this is going to. I think about that a lot when I hear a lot of these videos of people talking about what's going on. This is all to move us to a new fiat currency or something, a new system, a new economic system, because what's going to happen, and what they want to happen, is they want to take all of the debt that they've made as a government, and they want to eliminate it. They want to blank slate it so that they can rise it up again and keep the economy flowing, because it's getting out of hand. And they're maybe just doing their best to figure out the best way possible to do that. I don't know. But that's another thing that we're going to talk about and get around to discussing. in future videos, hopefully. And just kind of keep an eye on things. Because if they can't figure out a way to do it, and we don't have this wonderful, wonderful online metaverse world that people hopefully find a balance of, hopping in and out of, and we're gonna see what happens. Things will happen. Things will happen, and things will change, and we will see. And we will see. And that will be okay. But for now, I gotta get the family ready, because we gotta head out of town. So hang in there, and as always, like, subscribe, and give me some topics to talk about. And bye.